The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, thank you for joining today's 15-minute tech break. Hope you have some time to spend with us to go through how we can discuss recouping offsite storage expenses. We're talking about backup tapes today. My name is Jim McGann. I'm VP of Marketing here at Index Engines, and I'll be your host. I'm joined by Greg Jorgensen, who's our solution architect, who's going to take you through a very short demo of the product. Hopefully we'll have time to take some questions. I know we're on a compressed time frame today. If you do have them, you can chat them in the question area in the bottom right corner. Otherwise, you can send a question to me directly, and we'll get you an answer as soon as possible. My email address is there. I'll put it up at the end of the session as well. So legacy tapes. Legacy tapes are kind of a burden. People are have piles of them. We talk to customers that have thousands of them, to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of them. The challenge with tapes is they're an expense. They're a monthly offsite storage expense. Every month you get the bill from Iron Mountain, Recall, people like that, asking you to pay the rental space for that content. And the management of those tapes and restoration of content to support legal activity creates can be a significant expense there. Also the liability of that content. So there's a lot of hidden stuff that's locked away in there. So if you have e-discovery or legal requests to get access to that, it becomes very complex, especially if you migrate it to different backup formats. And there's just a general risk of the content that's hidden on those tapes. And then finally, business value. Those tapes are really replication or images or archives of your intellectual property. What's on there may have value. It may have been lost from what's existing on the network. So the only copy may exist on those tapes that are historical records and email. So, the expense and liability is one thing, but then there is business value of that content. So, why keep them? Why do they pile up? Obviously, they're expensive to manage. So managing access to that content on there, being that it's highly redundant. Tapes are backup and replication of the same content over and over again. So it's significant volumes, and it's archived in proprietary formats, whether it be NetBackup or Commvault or TSM or ArcServe. It's very difficult to get access to them because you'll need the original environment and the original version of the backup software to get access to that content. So the challenge of getting access to them, the fact that it does typically require third-party firms for restoration. Those third-party specialized firms have all the different versions of the backup software and the environment in place so they can get the data off of tape. The challenge with working with those firms is they restore content, all the content on the tape. They can't find specific files and emails, so they can get everything for you. And it's a big pile of data that must be sorted through, including the duplicates. So basically what's happened is with tapes, it's cheaper to keep them. There's no policy for legacy tape data. The records management teams tend to ignore it, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind with regard to tape content. So obviously tapes, again, expensive to manage, no policy around them, so they end up just basically stockpiling out at places like Iron Mountain, Recall, and other offsite storage environments. So what Greg is going to show you in the demonstration today is cost-effective tape processing with the Index Engines platform. So in terms of the traditional restoration process, you've got to create the original environment, especially when you're dealing with tapes that are 5, 6, 7 years old. If you don't have that original environment or the original software, you've got to create that original environment in order to start the process. It's not an intelligent process, so you've got to restore 100% of the data off the tape. So grab everything back, and if you've got an LTO3 or LTO4, you're talking lots of gigabytes or even up to terabytes of data off of these tapes. Then you start the process of figuring out what's there. You've got to index it, dedupe the results, search for relevant content, and then extract what you need from the tape. With the automated approach from Index Engines, you can directly scan the tape. Content is going to do a full text and metadata index of the content. You can search for deduped relevant data. The deduplication process happens automatically. Search for keywords or search for metadata, search for user mailboxes, and extract what you need from tape. You're basically cherry picking what you need off of the tape. And in the traditional restoration approach, 100% of the data moves off of tape. With the Index Engine's automated approach, only the relevant data moves from tape, which is significantly less than 5%. We typically see customers pulling far less than 1% of data off of the tapes. So the fact that you're not restoring data and moving data and working with data that has no value is really where the payback occurs. So the process here, and Greg's going to show you a quick demonstration of that. There's an automated culling process that index engines can take you through with respect to tapes, where you can go through the inventory process of the tapes, visually inspect them. This is not using technology. This is really just kind of hand-holding the tapes. And you'll find that all these tapes, even though they're stored in offsite storage vaults, you'll find that a small portion of them, about 2% or so, may be damaged. Cataloging the tapes, there may be a bunch of unreadable tapes that are not, you're not able to process, but you can scan the headers and perform cataloging of it. And then using the catalog culling process, you can get rid of irrelevant backups, incremental backups when you have a recent pull, backups of non-user data. So you can use that intelligence to do some significant catalog culling here, and that's where the index engine platform can help you out. And then you do full deep indexing of the tapes, and the content's deduped, denisted. You can automate it using tape libraries to speed it up, and you can get down to 20% of the original capacity by compressing the duplicate content and the irrelevant content. You can also do custodian selections, grab specific mailboxes, and pull specific content of interest, and this could be a very small percentage. And then you can extract the data, specific files and emails from tape, and recycle the ones that have no value. So this relevant content that's being extracted will typically represent far less than 5% of the total tape content. What's valuable here is that Index Engines provides direct access and direct indexing of the content, a level of intelligence that allows you to automate the culling process. And by the time you're pulling data from tape, you're just pulling the relevant content versus pulling everything. So in terms of the methodology, as I mentioned, the first step with the Index Engines platform is you can ingest a legacy catalog. So if you do have a legacy catalog like TSM, for example, you can ingest that, or you can use a library to scan the tapes and catalog the content. The second step is profiling it, auto-dedupe and classify the tape content and segment them to what has value. So typically customers will look for content that may just have email on it, and if it's just the email that you're interested in, you can find those email backups and just use them and get rid of the rest of it. You can perform searches, either keyword or metadata search to find relevant data or even specific user mailboxes. And then the key is extracting. Extract the individual files and extract the stuff that's of interest and all the metadata and contents maintained. The difference between extraction and the traditional process is it's not full restoration. Full tape restoration is expensive and time-consuming and does not allow you to really manage tapes in an effective manner. So Greg's going to take you through a quick demonstration of the technology to show you how it works, and I'll pass it over to Greg.
Thanks a lot, Jim. So to start off, the Index Engine's 2U appliance, it would connect to your tape drive or tape library, and the software manages that library. So once you put in your batch of tapes into the library, Index Engines will automatically create a manual catalog of all the information from those tape headers. As Jim discussed earlier, another option for certain backup formats is our ability to directly ingest the catalog from a live media server. So for NetBackup and TSM, instead of manually creating the catalog, we could also ingest that live catalog, and it'll be placed in in our tape processing screen that you're seeing here. And this is where you perform the tape catalog culling that Jim discussed. So from the tape catalog, I can see here, your barcode label information. I see label create dates. I see the backup format, what host was backed up. So I can see host here. I can see if it's a full or incremental backup. And again, all at high-level tape catalog information, either from an ingested catalog from TSM or NetBackup, or a manually created catalog. From here to index the tapes, it's as simple as selecting, culling using our filters up top here, what tapes you want to index. So once you've identified those, it's as simple as putting a check mark next to the tapes that you want to index. Scrolling down to the bottom here and selecting this index selected tapes icon. That'll progress those tapes to be loaded into the tape drives in the library, and we'll start our indexing process. We can either index those tapes at a metadata level or a full content level. From that point, once the index is created, it's all about searching that tape information. So I want to go over here to our search engine. From this point on, there's a couple different ways to search. You could search by location of the backup information, so by backup sets, by host information that was contained on the backup tapes. There are filters also, so you could do full content Boolean type searches, file level metadata, document level metadata, email properties like your to and your from, CC, as well as backup property information. So I'm going to go and perform a search here. Let's say I want to look for certain file properties. I want to go and, let's say, select file types. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to documents. Let's say I want to search for, let's say, Word documents here, as well as PDF files. And I want to perform a keyword search. So I'm going to come up here, select our Boolean operators. I'm going to put the term, let's say, confidential in here. So I'm searching the word confidential in PDF and Word documents. Go and kick that search off. And it's going to build a set of summary reports. I'm doing this in our report tab. It's a high-level view of all, like maybe about 10 or 12 baseline reports. So from that search for that key term within Word or PDF files for this particular sample search, I see here my file type report. I can see high level that the number one files that hit on my responsive query are PFT files. I could see, let's say, owners of those files. It's going to show me SIDs, as well as names if we are connected to your AD and resolve those SIDs. I'm going to see all different types of reports here. So owners, hosts, locations, file types, file extensions, sizes, and all these reports are callable. So I can call from the report to narrow down my results set further if I want. From this point, I can go over to our results tab. This is looking at the data from, instead of a high-level view like the summary reports, from a more granular level view. I can click, let's say, on an email message. I can see all of the metadata properties for that email message, as well as any attachments. And again, I see the full content of the message. So like Jim said, we're directly indexing the tape, and we're not moving 100% of the data off the tape. I still have this deep visibility into the full content of these mail files, within an Exchange database, within a backup image on tape, before moving any data. At the time you want to go in and extract data from tape, it's as simple as going and looking at one of our reports here, selecting the mail messages that you want. You could do a isolated select like I just performed here, selecting a few files, or I can go and do a batch select by selecting this box up top. Going to our extraction wizard, here you would put a job name. You would select for mail format, EML or MSG, and you'd put a destination in of what disk space you want that extracted to. And this is a wizard is going to perform. It's going to take the data that's selected from your screen here from tape and extract it to disk, and you'd put in the credentials that have write access to that disk drive. Once the extraction completes, you can see the data. So it's going to tell you the job name, and it's going to be, the data is going to be contained in a folder called data with the exact forensic structure that it was maintained on tape. So here I'm looking at an Exchange server. I'm looking at John Doe's mailbox. I'm looking at John Doe's inbox. And here's the MSGs for those individual files that I selected for the extraction job. Jim, I'm going to pass this back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. That was great. I'm going to move it over and wrap up the presentation. I know we went pretty quick today. That was the intention. One of the things I want to offer is we have an ROI analysis that we can take you through that shows you, analyzes your existing environment and makes recommendations and tells you exactly how much it would cost and what it would take in terms of time frames and resources to remediate legacy tapes. And we've done projects. Here's some examples of some projects that we've done. The first one's 220,000 tapes at 18 petabytes of tape data. That's a significant project. For a financial services firm, it's a multi-year project where they're archiving about 200 terabytes of data off of the tape. So going from 18 petabytes to 212 terabytes of data of value. Other examples are smaller. We're working with a petabyte of data down to 10 terabytes in less than about 9 months, and so on. So you can see there's a number of projects that we're dealing with, from very large scale to very small scale at a couple thousand tapes, where it's economical and it makes sense to remediate tapes and recoup that offsite storage expense. To wrap it up, I know we're out of time. If you do have questions, my email address is on the screen here. Shoot me an email. We'll get back to you. If you also want a copy of the presentation or a copy of some of the white papers that we have, around how to remediate tapes or to go into a deep dive technical presentation, we're here for you and can take you through that as well. Thank you today for your time. Appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you in the future. That concludes today's presentation.